I'm confused about something with this windowing, which is going on, which is that I remember being at home on a Friday night and this movie Arbitrage came on DIRECTV. At the same time it was in the theater, and I said to my wife, Arbitrage is available on our television right now. I didn't really see any advertising about it, but isn't it true that these windows are sort of starting to overlap a lot more? Are they starting to sort of, the separation is it's very confusing to know what precedes what, and that seems to be changing on an almost daily basis.
And Roadside was very successful in confusing you, and I say that deliberately. The reality on Arbitrage, which was a follow-up on the type of release that they had done on Margin Call, which was the same type of release, was a film that they did release without windows. That means theatrically at the same time as video on demand. But they had rented the majority of movie theaters in the marketplace. So we call that four-walling. And
so just to be clear, if you're going to go if you're going to go prior to theatrical, then you have to pay the theater
or at the same time.
So there are a lot of films that more and more now distributors or studios are releasing, and what you kind of said, a day and date model. So it releases theatrically the same day that it releases on VOD, and Arbitrage was one of those. But Arbitrage was actually hugely successful on DIRECTV when we had it in that window. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. We're actually very picky about the ones that we will take in that early window, because we don't want people to start thinking that all films are released that way, or also are worth paying more, because they are going to cost more. They're roughly $7.99 or $8.99 versus the $5.99 film. So in some cases it works. You pay a little bit more, right? And I think it pays off for certain films. It's actually really the right way to release it. What we're doing is a pre-theatrical window, so that works for certain films. And then some films should go the very traditional model with the 90 days in theater and beyond. But I do want to kind of point out, as you brought up, and I think we heard earlier about the competitive nature of whether the VOD window really competes with theatrical window, or whether it supplements it. And so what we've seen with our exclusives, for sure, we know who our audience is. We're handpicking these films. We have an insanely sophisticated analytics team that can hone down on who's watching these films, what the household looks like. And what we found is it's typically parents with kids who can't get out to the theaters. It costs them $150 to go out to the movies. And so we really think that, I remember after I had my daughter the first time I went to the movie theater, I spent all this money to go to the movie theater and I fell asleep because I was sleep deprived. And so, I think other parents have gone through that. And the best way to watch a movie is put the kid to bed, order something on TV, and we feel like we're actually increasing the audience for movies, because we're bringing in a set of people who probably won't get out to the theaters to see it. And that's why these day and date models, or the exclusive window pre-theatrical, works, because we're opening a whole new group of people up to these films that they wouldn't otherwise get to see. Plus, like I said, our customers are all across America, and so someone in Missouri is not going to get the opportunity to see Arbitrage in the theater that day, but they can watch it the same day that it's in the theaters, and so it works.
Interesting research, and there's not been much of it, and I'm sure your analytics are far greater than anything that's been seen publicly, but there was some research I saw about Margin Call, which was released in that fashion, that said that 90% of the people who saw the film in the theater didn't know that it was available on VOD, and 90% of the people who saw it on VOD didn't know it was available in the theater, which is really interesting and makes me wonder why people think that putting a film in theaters helps the VOD life.
Well, but I think once there are more and more of those movies, and the audiences will start to realize that, in fact, they can go both places. That's where the exhibitors really feel the threat. And don't forget that, Margin Call, and there's that many movies, 5 movies that I can think of right now that have actually done really, really well on the VOD model, and have done well theatrically.
I think the bottom line is you can argue what is the best way to release a movie, but for producers now, the fact that you have choices and that there are a lot of different options that exist now is kind of incredible. I mean, it's sort of what keeps me going in this business, and we release movies all different kinds of ways. And I think the fact that there are these options available to, split your rights and maybe do some, especially on documentaries, to release it in different ways and have that creative flexibility so that you can potentially recoup your investment and not lose money is, I think, really exciting. I mean, I think that there are certain films that a traditional release will always be the best way. And then there are certain films that trying a day-and-date release is the best way. And I think as producers, one needs to be very realistic about, what is the right way for this film to be released in terms of, what finances are available, what kind of deal are what kinds of deals are on the table, and, what films have come before it that you could comp it to. And I think that it's a changing time right now, but it's also a very exciting time right now.
I agree.